You weren't scrolling, you were being pulled. Maybe it was 3:33 a.m. when you woke up, heart racing, fingers already reaching for your phone. Maybe you've been seeing repeating numbers for weeks, 11:11, 4:44, sequences that make your skin electric. Maybe someone's name kept appearing, or a song played 3 times in 3 different places, or you had that dream again. The one where you're standing in front of a mirror that shows you at different ages, and you can't tell which reflection is real. And now you're here. This isn't coincidence. The universe doesn't send messages through algorithms by accident. Something in you, some frequency, some readiness, some quantum signature, aligned with this moment. And if you can feel that truth resonating in your chest right now, if there's a strange recognition happening as you hear these words, then you already know. You're not a passive consumer of content. You're an active participant in a conversation that began before you were born. Reality is not what you think it is. It's not a fixed stage where you play out predetermined scripts. It's not a prison of genetics and circumstance. Reality is a field, quantum, responsive, alive, and it's been waiting for you to remember something ancient. You are not just in reality. You are observing it into existence, and observation, true observation, changes everything. Right now, in this moment, you are collapsing probability waves with your attention. Every thought is a measurement. Every belief is a choice between timelines. Every expectation is a command sent into the field. And your body, your cells, your DNA, your very experience of time is listening. What if I told you that aging itself is not biological destiny, but observational habit? What if the wrinkles, the fatigue, the forgetting, the slow dimming of vitality? What if all of it is the result of unconscious observation patterns you inherited from a culture that expects decay? What if your cells are mirrors, reflecting back the version of reality you keep looking at? The ancient mystery schools knew this. In the underground temples of Chem, in the hidden libraries of Alexandria, in the coded texts attributed to Thoth, there existed practices, exercises of consciousness that reversed the observer's relationship with time. They didn't call it anti-aging. They called it remembering immortality. They called it returning to the eternal now. They called it breaking the spell of linear collapse. And these practices, these 5 quantum exercises, are not metaphors. They are technologies of attention that reorganize your cellular field, rewrite your energetic signature, and literally shift you into a timeline where age moves differently. But here's what most people miss. These exercises only work if you understand what you actually are. Not your story, not your resume, not even your memories. You are an observer embedded in a quantum field, and the quality of your observation determines the quality of your reality. This message is time sensitive, not because I'm selling urgency, but because you're in a window right now, a frequency gate. The fact that this video appeared in your field of awareness means you're oscillating at a specific bandwidth. You're receivable. The signal can reach you, but windows close, frequencies shift. The noise of the external world, the opinions, the algorithms, the collective hypnosis, it's designed to pull you back into unconscious observation. So what you're about to receive isn't entertainment, it's activation. Over the next 2 hours, we're going from asleep observer to active observer to conscious co-creator. We're going to trace the lineage of this knowledge, from ancient Egypt to quantum physics. We're going to expose why most people fail at timeline shifting, why manifestation teachings leave out the most crucial element, and why synchronicity is the universe's way of confirming you're finally paying attention. And then, we're going to show you the 5 exercises. Not as metaphysical theory, but as practical frequency shift protocols that change how your cells perceive time, how your consciousness navigates probability, and how reality responds to your presence. You didn't stumble here. You were called. And if you stay until the end, if you let this transmission restructure something fundamental in you, you will not leave the same. You will leave as someone who remembers age is observation, time is attention, and immortality is simply refusing to collapse into the version of yourself that the external world expects. Before we go deeper, I need you to do something. If you can feel this resonance, if something in you recognizes the truth behind these words, subscribe to this channel. Not because I need the numbers, but because subscribing is an act of quantum commitment. It's you telling the field, I'm ready for more. I choose the signal over the noise. And when you hit that like button, you're not just supporting content. You're casting a vote for your own awakening. You're saying yes to the version of yourself that's watching this and understanding every word on a level beneath language. Do it now. Subscribe. Like. Not as obligation, but as ritual. As the first conscious choice you're making in this new timeline. Who is watching you watch this? That's not a philosophical question. That's the key to everything. Because somewhere inside you, there's an observer watching you observe. And that meta-observer, that witness behind the witness, is where the real power lives. Most people spend their entire lives identified with the first layer observer, the one reacting to circumstances, interpreting events, collecting evidence for pre-existing beliefs. But you're here because some part of you knows there's another layer, a place where you're not trapped in time, a place where you can step outside the loop and choose which probability path you collapse into. The ancients called this place the throne of Thoth, the seat of the scribe who writes reality. Modern quantum physics calls it the observer effect, but the name doesn't matter. What matters is this. You're about to remember how to sit in that throne again. And from that seat, age becomes optional. Let's begin. There was a time before time was linear, not in myth, not in fantasy, but in the actual lived experience of early humans who had not yet been hypnotized into believing reality was solid, fixed, inevitable. They lived in what we might call the quantum dream, a state where the boundary between inner vision and outer manifestation was thin, permeable, responsive. And somewhere in that ancient world, someone made a discovery that would be encoded, hidden, guarded, and passed down through every mystery tradition for thousands of years. Attention is the brush. Reality is the canvas. And the observer is the artist. We don't know exactly when this realization first crystallized, but we have clues. In the temples of ancient Kem, what we now call Egypt, there were practices so potent, so reality-altering, that they were only taught in darkness, in underground chambers, to initiates who had proven they could handle the responsibility of conscious creation. The Greeks would later call the keeper of this knowledge Thoth. The Egyptians called him Jehuti, the measurer, the scribe, the one who writes the book of reality with his attention. He wasn't just a god of wisdom. He was the personification of a principle, that consciousness, when focused with precision and ritual, becomes the organizing force of matter itself. In the mystery schools of Kem, students learned something that modern science is only now rediscovering. The universe is not made of things. It's made of relationships between observers and observed. It's made of attention creating form. It's made of expectation collapsing waves into particles. Picture this. A stone chamber, deep beneath the desert. A single flame casting shadows that seem to breathe. An initiate, perhaps no older than you, lying on a stone slab while a priest chants in a language that predates language. The initiate is being taught to observe their own body from outside, to witness their heartbeat without identifying with it, to see their thoughts arise and dissolve without claiming them. This wasn't relaxation, this was technology. Because when you can observe yourself without collapsing into identification, something miraculous happens. You step outside the timeline you were unconsciously creating. You become, for a moment, the probability field itself. And from that vantage point, you can choose. You can direct your attention toward health instead of decay, vitality instead of exhaustion. The version of yourself that exists in eternal now, rather than the version dragging forward through linear time. The Emerald Tablet, attributed to Thoth and later translated by alchemists and mystics, contains a single line that unlocks everything. As above, so below. As within, so without. This isn't poetry. It's instruction. Your inner state, your attention, your emotional frequency, your beliefs about what's possible, creates your outer reality. Not metaphorically, literally. The field responds to coherence. When your inner observer aligns with a specific frequency, the external world reorganizes to match it. But here's what the ancients understood that we've forgotten. This process is happening all the time. You are always observing. You are always collapsing probability into form. The question is whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously. Most people are unconscious observers. They observe lack and get more lack. They observe aging and accelerate aging. They observe limitations and build walls. Not because they want to, but because they inherited observation patterns from a culture built on fear, scarcity, and the illusion of separation. Jump forward 1,000 years. A monastery in Tibet. A monk sits in meditation for 18 hours, barely breathing, barely blinking. What is he doing? He's mastering observation. He's learning to watch his mind without being his mind. He's practicing the same technology the Egyptians knew, that the witness state is the creator state. In those silent hours, something happens. He begins to notice numbers, patterns, synchronicities. He sees the same bird 3 days in a row. He opens a text to the exact passage he needs. He dreams of a teacher and meets them the next morning. This isn't magic, it's feedback. The field is confirming. You're paying attention now. You're observing consciously. Keep going. Synchronicity, the meaningful coincidence, the pattern that can't be explained by causation, is the language of the quantum field. It's how reality talks back when you start watching with intention instead of sleepwalking through stimulus and response. Carl Jung, the psychologist who brought synchronicity into modern language, understood this. He studied alchemy, worked with the I Ching, corresponded with physicists exploring quantum mechanics. He knew that the psyche and the material world are not separate. They're two sides of the same phenomenon, consciousness experiencing itself through observation. And in his private writings, Jung hinted at something radical, that psychological time, the time of the psyche, can move differently than clock time. That transformation, which seems to take years, can happen in moments when the observer shifts state. That regression can reverse when attention reorganizes. This is the secret hidden in every mystical tradition, every alchemical text, every meditation practice that promises transformation. You are not in time. Time is in you. And the way you observe yourself determines how time moves through your body. Let me bring this into the present moment, into your life. You, right now, listening to these words, you were always an observer. Even before you had language, you were watching. Watching your parents, absorbing their beliefs about aging, about worthiness, about what's possible. Watching the world, learning what reality is from people who themselves learned from other unconscious observers. And somewhere along the way, you forgot that you were choosing what to observe. You started believing that reality was happening to you instead of through you. But then something shifted. Maybe it was a crisis. Maybe it was a moment of beauty so intense it cracked your habitual perception. Maybe it was a near-death experience, a psychedelic journey, a heartbreak that shattered your identity. Or maybe, like now, it was just a strange pull toward information that doesn't make logical sense but feels like coming home. Whatever it was, it opened a crack. And through that crack, you remembered. I am not just the character in the story. I am the one watching the story. And if I can watch it, I can rewrite it. This remembering is ancient. It's the same thing that happened in the temples, in the monasteries, in the mystery schools. It's the moment when the observer wakes up inside the observation. And once you wake up, you can never fully go back to sleep. Because now you start noticing how your mood shifts reality, how your expectations create outcomes, how the things you fear seem to manifest, while the things you love appear when you're not forcing them. You start seeing the correlation between your inner frequency and your outer circumstances. You start understanding what the Book of Thoth was really about. Not spells and incantations, but attention codes. Formulas for directing consciousness. Maps of how to navigate probability fields. The moderns call it the information field, the zero-point field, the quantum vacuum. But they're talking about the same thing the Egyptians carved into stone, a responsive intelligence that reorganizes based on observation. And here's where it gets personal, where it gets urgent. Your body is part of that field. Every cell, every mitochondria, every strand of DNA is constantly receiving signals, interpreting information, deciding whether to build or break down, activate or deactivate, age or renew. And the primary signal your cells receive? Your observation of yourself. When you look in the mirror and think, I'm getting old, your cells receive that as instruction. When you feel tired and identify with it, I'm always tired now, it's just my age. Your mitochondria adjust their energy production to match that belief. When you expect decline, you signal decline. But the reverse is also true. When you observe yourself from the place of the eternal witness, when you see your body as a quantum field capable of reorganization, when you expect vitality and renewal, your cells respond. Telomeres can lengthen, inflammatory markers can decrease. Gene expression can shift toward longevity pathways. This isn't wishful thinking. This is documented in studies on meditation, belief, and cellular biology. But the studies miss the deeper mechanism. It's not the meditation technique itself. It's the shift in observation that meditation enables. You were always an observer. You just forgot. And the moment you remember, the moment you realize that your attention is not passive but creative, everything changes. But remembering isn't enough. Because the world you live in is designed to make you forget again. And that's where we go next. Into the conflict, the struggle, the reason why most people can't hold the observer state long enough to quantum shift their timeline. You've felt it, haven't you? That moment when you understand the truth, when you see clearly that you're the observer, that reality is responsive, that you could change everything. And then, within hours or days, you collapse back into the old patterns, back into scrolling, back into reacting, back into the version of yourself that ages, worries, forgets, repeats. Why does this happen? If observation creates reality, if we're truly quantum beings with the power to shift timelines, why do most people stay stuck in loops they consciously want to escape? This is the great paradox, the hidden war, the conflict that every mystery school warned about but few could articulate clearly. Let me name it. You are not the only observer of your reality. Right now, in this moment, there are thousands, maybe millions, of external observers watching you, expecting you to be a certain way. Your family has observed you into a role. Your job has observed you into a function. Your social media has observed you into a pattern. The medical system has observed you into a diagnosis. Culture has observed you into an age category. And here's the quantum truth that changes everything. Their observation has weight. In quantum mechanics, there's a principle called wave function collapse. Before observation, a particle exists in superposition, all possibilities at once. But the moment it's observed, it collapses into one definite state. The observer affects the observed. Now scale this up to human life. You exist in superposition, infinite potential versions of yourself. But the moment your mother observes you as the anxious one, the moment your doctor observes you as declining, the moment society observes you as past your prime, those observations exert pressure. They try to collapse you into the version they expect. And if your observation of yourself is weak, unconscious, or aligned with their expectations, you will collapse into their reality. You will become the version of yourself that matches the collective agreement about who you're supposed to be. This is why transformation is so hard. Not because you're broken, not because the techniques don't work, but because you're fighting an observational field that wants you to stay predictable. The algorithm wants you scrolling. The pharmaceutical industry wants you symptomatic. The economic system wants you productive in specific ways. Your unhealed family wants you playing familiar roles. And all of that creates an observational pressure, a gravity well, pulling you back toward the consensus reality. This is what the ancients called the veil, the trap, the illusion. Not because physical reality is fake, but because the collective agreement about what physical reality must be is so strong that it overrides individual observation. Unless you learn to observe with more intensity, more coherence, more quantum authority than the external field. And that's where most people fail. They try to quantum shift using techniques they learned from someone who's still stuck in the matrix. They try to manifest abundance while surrounded by people who observe them as broke. They try to reverse aging while consuming content that constantly reinforces decline. They're trying to out-observe the culture with a consciousness that's been domesticated by the culture. It doesn't work. Here's the deeper problem, the observer loop. You start to wake up. You realize you're observing reality. So you try to watch yourself watching. You try to be spiritual, conscious, intentional. And in doing so, you create a new layer of performance. You're now observing yourself trying to be a good observer, which creates a meta loop that traps you in spiritual bypassing. You meditate, but you're watching yourself meditate to make sure you're doing it right. You visualize your ideal reality, but you're monitoring whether it's working, which creates doubt, which collapses the probability wave toward doubt. You try to feel abundant, but you're checking your bank account to see if the universe responded yet, which reinforces lack. The observer loop is watching yourself, and getting stuck in analysis paralysis instead of pure creation. I've seen this destroy people. Brilliant, sensitive, aware people who understand the theory perfectly, but can't escape their own self-consciousness. They know too much. They're aware of being aware. And that second-order awareness becomes a prison more sophisticated than ignorance. So what's the answer? The answer is what the mystics call dying before you die. It's what quantum physics calls decoherence. It's the moment when you stop performing observation and simply become it. You stop trying to be the observer. You realize you are observation itself. But before we get there, we have to go deeper into the crisis. Because there's something else happening that most teachings completely miss. The universe stops sending signals. You've experienced this. There was a period when synchronicities were everywhere. 11:11 on every clock. The right book falling open to the right page. Conversations that answered questions you hadn't spoken. You felt seen, guided, connected to something vast and intelligent. And then, silence. The numbers stopped. The signs dried up. The magic faded. And you were left wondering, did I imagine it? Was I crazy? Did I do something wrong? No, you didn't do anything wrong. What happened is this. The universe sent you signals to wake you up, and you woke up. But then, instead of acting on the wake-up call, you started worshiping the signals. You started waiting for more signs instead of becoming the sign. Synchronicity is a language, not a destination. It's meant to show you that reality is responsive, so you'll start responding back. But if all you do is collect coincidences like evidence, if you keep asking for proof instead of stepping into authority, the signals stop. Because the universe isn't here to convince you. It's here to co-create with you. And co-creation requires risk. It requires moving before you have all the answers. It requires trusting your inner observation more than external validation. This is the spiritual crisis almost no one talks about. The moment when you realize you have to stop waiting for permission from the cosmos and start giving yourself permission to be the cosmos in human form. It's terrifying, because it means you're responsible. It means there's no guru, no sign, no synchronicity that can save you from the choice. It means you have to observe yourself into the version of yourself you want to become, even when external reality hasn't caught up yet. Even when the people around you still see the old you. Even when your bank account, your body, your circumstances are still reflecting yesterday's observation. This is where faith becomes quantum mechanics. This is where belief stops being religious and becomes scientific. You have to hold the observation of yourself as vital, timeless, powerful, chosen, before reality confirms it. You have to collapse into that version consistently, repeatedly, in the face of contradictory evidence. And your nervous system will fight you. Because your nervous system has been trained by evolution to predict danger and ensure survival. It doesn't want quantum leaps. It wants consistency, familiarity, the known path. So when you start observing yourself differently, when you start acting as if you're outside linear time, your body panics. It sends stress signals. It creates anxiety. It manufactures doubt. It pulls up every memory of failure as evidence that this won't work. This is the dragon at the gate. Every hero's journey has one. Every initiate in the mystery schools faced it. It's not external. It's the part of you that would rather stay small and safe than become vast and vulnerable. And here's the philosophical weight of all this. If you are the observer who creates reality, then every limitation you experience is one you, on some level, chose or allowed. That's heavy. That's the burden the ancients warned about. Because it means you can't be a victim. You can't blame genetics, circumstances, bad luck. You can observe those things as factors, yes, but you can't hide behind them. If observation creates reality, then unconscious observation creates unconscious reality. And the life you're living right now, the aging, the patterns, the limitations, is the result of accumulated observations you've been making since childhood. Most of them inherited, most of them not your fault. But now, all of them your responsibility. This is why the Book of Thoth was hidden. This is why mystery schools required years of preparation. This is why the knowledge was encoded in symbols, myths, riddles, not to gatekeep, but because the truth is dangerous to an unprepared mind. If you realize you're the observer before you've healed your trauma, you'll use the power to reinforce your wounds. If you realize you create reality before you've developed compassion, you'll build a prison of superiority. If you step into quantum authority before you've learned humility, you'll collapse into ego inflation and spiritual narcissism. The preparation wasn't about worthiness. It was about readiness. And the question is, are you ready? Are you ready to take full responsibility for the reality you're observing into existence? Are you ready to stop blaming external forces and start directing internal frequency? Are you ready to face the observer loop, the nervous system panic, the collapse back into consensus reality, and choose differently anyway? Because if you're not ready, that's okay. You can stop here. You can keep consuming content, collecting techniques, waiting for the right moment. But if you are ready, if something in you is screaming yes, even though your logical mind is terrified, then we're about to cross the threshold. We're about to move from understanding the problem to embodying the solution. We're about to reveal the 5 exercises that the ancients used, that the quantum field confirms, that will shift your observation of time, age, and identity so fundamentally that your cells will have no choice but to reorganize. But first, one more truth. Unconscious observation is accidental manifestation. You are manifesting right now, this second. With every thought you're not aware of, every belief you haven't questioned, every expectation you inherited from the culture, you're creating your tomorrow with today's unconscious attention. And most of what you're creating, you don't even want. The wrinkles aren't coming from time. They're coming from the thousands of micro-observations you make in the mirror, the unconscious agreement with beauty standards, the belief that youth is leaving and taking value with it. The fatigue isn't just biological. It's the accumulated weight of observing yourself as tired, identifying with exhaustion, expecting it to worsen with each year. The forgetting, the slowing, the dimming. It's all observation becoming form. But here's the miracle hidden in the crisis. If unconscious observation created this, conscious observation can uncreate it. If your cells respond to the frequency you broadcast, you can change the frequency. If your DNA reads your beliefs as instructions, you can rewrite the instructions. If your body is a mirror reflecting your inner observer, you can change what you observe. And that's what the 5 exercises do. They're not anti-aging hacks. They're observational technologies that collapse you into a different timeline. Are you ready to learn them? This is the moment everything changes. Not because I'm going to give you a secret, but because you're about to remember something you already know at a level deeper than language. Something encoded in your cells. Something the ancients practiced in temples and the quantum field confirms in every moment. You are not your age. You are your observation of your age. And the 5 exercises I'm about to reveal are not tasks to complete. They're ways of being. Frequency locks, attention anchors that shift you from unconscious observation, which creates linear aging, to deliberate observation, which creates timeline selection. Let me say this clearly. These exercises will feel strange at first. Your rational mind will dismiss them. Your nervous system will resist. The culture will mock them. But if you practice them with the understanding that observation literally reorganizes matter, if you approach them as quantum technology rather than self-help tips, they will change your cellular field. They will change how time moves through your body. Let's begin. Exercise 1. Breath as observer. In every mystical tradition, breath is sacred. Not because breathing is magical, but because breath is the only autonomic function you can consciously control. It's the bridge between unconscious automation and deliberate presence. And when you breathe with full awareness, not controlling the breath, but observing it, you step outside linear time. Here's how it works. Twice a day, morning and before sleep, sit in stillness. Close your eyes. Don't try to breathe correctly. Simply watch your breath. Watch the inhale arrive without forcing it. Watch the exhale leave without pushing it. Watch the pause between breaths, that infinite moment where you're neither breathing in nor breathing out. That pause is the quantum gap. That's where you exist outside causation. That's where you're not collapsing into past or future. You're pure observation with no object. And here's the key. While you observe your breath, observe your body as if you're seeing it for the first time. Not your body as it was yesterday or as it will be tomorrow. Your body as it is in this eternal now. Feel the aliveness in your hands, the electricity in your cells, the hum of your nervous system. Don't interpret it. Don't label it as young or old, healthy or declining. Just observe the raw sensation of being alive. Do this for 7 minutes minimum. 14 is better. 21 creates a coherence field so strong your cells begin communicating differently. What's happening beneath the surface? When you observe without judgment, you stop sending stress signals. Your hypothalamus stops releasing cortisol. Your telomeres stop shortening. Your mitochondria receive a message. We are safe. We can build instead of defend. But more than biology, you're practicing the fundamental quantum skill. Observation without collapse into a predetermined outcome. You're training yourself to see reality, including your body, as a field of possibility instead of a fixed form. Exercise 2. Tapping quantum points. The body has meridians, energy pathways. The Chinese mapped them thousands of years ago. Acupuncture uses them. But what most people don't know is that certain points on the body function as quantum anchors, places where your attention can directly interface with the field. There are 5 primary points. The third eye, between your eyebrows. This is the observation center. When you tap here gently with 2 fingers while stating an intention, you're activating the pineal gland and signaling the field that you're choosing to observe consciously. The throat, base of your throat. This is the expression center. Tapping here unlocks suppressed timelines, versions of yourself you never spoke into being because fear or conditioning silenced you. The heart, center of your chest. This is the coherence center. Tapping here while feeling genuine gratitude creates electromagnetic coherence that your cells read as a safety signal. The solar plexus, 2 inches above your navel. This is the power center. Tapping here while claiming your authority as observer interrupts the habit of giving your power to external validation. The base, pelvic floor. This is the ground center. Tapping here connects you to Earth's frequency and reminds your body that you're part of a larger living system, not an isolated organism fighting decay. Here's the practice. Every morning, tap each point 7 times while breathing deeply. As you tap, speak, or think a quantum affirmation tied to that center. Third eye. I observe my reality with clarity and intention. Throat. I speak my chosen timeline into form. Heart. I am coherent with the frequency of vitality. Solar plexus. I reclaim my authority as creator. Base. I am grounded in timeless presence. This takes less than 3 minutes, but those 3 minutes reorganize your biofield. You're not just affirming positive thoughts. You're literally tapping into the body's energetic circuitry and installing new observation codes. Exercise 3. Mirror coding. This one is dangerous, not because it harms you, but because it reveals how much of what you believe about yourself is fiction. Once a day, stand in front of a mirror. Look directly into your own eyes, not at your face, not at your flaws, not at signs of aging, into your eyes, into the depth behind them, and ask, who is watching? Don't answer with your name. Don't answer with your role. Just hold the question and stay present with the discomfort of not knowing. After a few moments, you'll feel something shift, a recognition, a presence behind the personality. That's the true observer. That's the one who doesn't age because it was never born into time. Once you feel that presence, make a statement. I choose to observe myself as vitality embodied. Say it slowly. Mean it. Let it vibrate through your body. Then, for 30 seconds, observe your reflection as if you're seeing a stranger who radiates health, clarity, power. See the light in the eyes, the strength in the posture, the timelessness in the expression. You're not pretending. You're not faking. You're choosing which probability wave to collapse into, because both exist. The version of you that's declining and the version that's renewing. The mirror shows you what you expect to see, so expect differently. Do this every day for 30 days and your face will change. Not because of skincare, because you've changed the observation pattern that was creating the aging signals. Exercise 4. Number acknowledgement. Synchronicity is real. Numbers appearing 1111, 333, 444 are not coincidence. They're feedback from the field confirming you're in coherence. But most people see the numbers and do nothing. They screenshot them. They feel a moment of excitement. And then they go back to unconscious observation. Here's the quantum practice. Every time you see a repeating number, stop. Take 3 conscious breaths and say internally or aloud, I acknowledge the signal. I am observing consciously. That's it. But what you're doing is profound. You're completing the feedback loop. The universe sends a signal. You confirm reception. This creates resonance, and resonance multiplies synchronicity. The more you acknowledge, the more the field responds. And the more it responds, the more you trust your observation is powerful. And the more you trust, the more authority your observation carries. Within weeks, you'll notice the synchronicities don't just increase, they start guiding you. The numbers appear before decisions, before meetings, before moments of choice. They become a language you're fluent in. And when you're fluent in the language of the field, you're no longer stumbling through reality hoping for luck. You're navigating probability with precision. Exercise 5. The morning frequency lock. This is the master practice, the one that contains all the others. Every morning, before you check your phone, before you speak to anyone, before you let external observation collapse you into a role, you lock in your frequency for the day. Here's how. Sit upright, spine straight, hands on your thighs or in a mudra that feels instinctively right. Close your eyes and bring your attention to your heart center. Ask yourself, what frequency am I choosing today? Not what you need to do, not what problems await. What frequency, what vibrational state do you choose to broadcast into the field? Maybe it's calm, maybe it's vitality, maybe it's curiosity, confidence, joy. Whatever arises, name it. Then, for 5 minutes, breathe that frequency into every cell. Imagine it as light, as sound, as a hum that saturates your body. As you do this, state your quantum intention for the day. Today, I observe myself as ageless presence. My cells respond to this frequency. My timeline aligns with this choice. Then, and this is crucial, you take one action, no matter how small, that embodies that frequency before you do anything else. If you chose vitality, maybe you do 10 push-ups or drink a glass of water with full presence. If you chose calm, maybe you sit in silence for 2 more minutes. If you chose confidence, maybe you write 1 sentence of the project you've been avoiding. The action doesn't have to be big, but it has to be immediate. Because action is observation made physical. It's you collapsing the probability wave into form. Do this every morning for 40 days, and you will not recognize your life. Not because circumstances magically change, though they might, but because you've changed which version of reality you're tuned to. You've changed the observation frequency, and reality has no choice but to reorganize around that. How to respond to synchronicity so it multiplies. Now that you have the 5 exercises, let's talk about how to work with the field in real time. Synchronicity multiplies when you treat it as dialogue, not decoration. When something appears 3 times, a name, a symbol, an idea, don't just notice it. Ask, what are you showing me? And then listen. Not with your logical mind, but with your body. Where do you feel pulled? What action wants to emerge? Then do it, immediately if possible. Text the person. Buy the book. Take the route. Follow the impulse before doubt calculates all the reasons not to. Because here's the quantum truth. The field sends signals to guide you toward coherence. When you act on the signals, you demonstrate trust. And trust creates more signals. But when you ignore them, when you see the sign and do nothing, you train the field to stop sending. Synchronicity is a muscle. Use it or lose it. Also, pay attention to what you're observing when synchronicities appear. Are you in fear or flow, doubt or trust? Because the quality of your observation when the signal arrives determines what the signal confirms. If you see 1111 while worrying about money, you've just anchored the worry with a synchronicity. But if you see 1111 while feeling grateful, you've amplified gratitude. The numbers are neutral. They're just markers saying, you're here, you're observing. What are you choosing? You're not manifesting objects. You're manifesting an identity the field recognizes. Here's where most manifestation teachings fail. They focus on getting things. Money, relationships, houses, bodies. But the quantum field doesn't respond to wanting. It responds to being. You don't manifest a younger body by wanting to look younger. You manifest it by becoming the observer who exists outside time. By embodying the frequency of vitality so consistently that your cells reorganize to match. You don't manifest abundance by visualizing money. You manifest it by being someone the field recognizes as abundant, someone who gives freely, trusts deeply, creates value, expects reciprocity. The exercises aren't about doing, they're about becoming. When you breathe as observer, you become presence. When you tap quantum points, you become coherent. When you mirror code, you become self-authored. When you acknowledge numbers, you become dialogic with the field. When you lock frequency, you become intentional. And when you are these things consistently, reality has no choice but to reflect them back. Because you're not a person trying to change. You're an observer choosing which version of yourself to collapse into. And the version you choose consistently, that's the one that becomes your lived experience. The new mystics will read reality. In real time, we're entering an era where the veil between thought and manifestation is thinning, where observation and outcome are collapsing into simultaneity. The people who master these exercises, who learn to hold observer state in the chaos of modern life, who can read synchronicity as fluently as language, they will be the new mystics, not hiding in monasteries, not performing rituals in secret, but walking through the world as conscious co-creators, navigating probability fields with precision, aging differently, manifesting instantly, living as proof that reality is not fixed. You're being invited into that lineage, into that frequency, into that timeline. But you have to choose it. And you have to choose it every day, every moment, in the face of a world that will constantly try to pull you back into unconscious observation. Reality as conversation, not prison. Imagine waking up every day knowing that reality is listening, that your cells are paying attention, that the field is responsive, that your observation matters. Imagine living without the tyranny of linear time, without the inevitability of decline, without the prison of genetic determinism. Imagine being in constant dialogue with synchronicity, guided by signals, flowing with probability instead of fighting circumstance. This isn't fantasy. This is physics. This is ancient knowledge confirmed by modern science. This is what you came here to remember. You are not trapped in a body that's programmed to decay. You are an eternal observer temporarily focused in form, and the form responds to the focus. Change the observation, change the form. It's that simple and that difficult. Let me bring you back to where we started. You weren't scrolling, you were being pulled. And now, after this journey, from forgotten observer to awakened witness to intentional co-creator, you understand why. This message found you because you're ready. Not ready for more information, ready for transformation, ready to stop performing spirituality and start being the observer who creates. You've seen the lineage, the ancient temples, the mystery schools, the quantum physics, the synchronicities that confirm reality is responsive. You've faced the conflict, the external observers, the observer loop, the nervous system resistance, the weight of taking full responsibility, and you've received the revelation. The 5 exercises that shift observation from unconscious aging to deliberate timeline selection. Now comes the only question that matters. What will you do? Because you can close this video and return to consensus reality. You can treat this as interesting content, screenshot a few quotes, maybe try one exercise when you remember. Or you can make a different choice. You can decide right now that this is the moment everything shifts. That today is the day you stop waiting for permission and start observing with authority. That this morning, yes, tomorrow morning, you begin the practices not as experiment, but as commitment. The universe doesn't reward hesitation, it rewards decision. So here's your ritual for today, for this moment right after you finish watching. Stand up. Place your hand on your heart. Take 3 deep breaths and say aloud or in the deepest part of your knowing, I choose to observe myself as timeless. I reclaim my authority as creator. I align with the frequency of vitality. I am awake. Then, do one of the 5 exercises immediately. Not tomorrow. Now. Tap your quantum points. Look in the mirror and ask who's watching. Take 7 conscious breaths. Acknowledge the next number you see. Lock in your frequency for the rest of today. Just 1. Right now. Because that action, that immediate embodiment, is how you confirm to the field, I'm not just consuming, I'm becoming. And when the field receives that confirmation, when it recognizes you as an active participant rather than a passive audience, everything accelerates. The synchronicities return, the energy shifts, the timeline reorganizes, the cells listen. You didn't find this message, it found you. And it found you at exactly the right moment. The moment when you were ready to stop being observed by reality and start observing reality back. The ancients encoded this knowledge because they knew there would come a time when humanity would need to remember, when the old systems would crumble, when the only way forward would be through conscious evolution. That time is now, and you are part of the remembering. You are the observer who bridges worlds, the ancient and the quantum, the mystical and the scientific, the dreamer and the creator. Your cells are listening. Your DNA is waiting. Your timeline is ready to shift. All that's required is the choice. And if you're feeling it, if there's a resonance in your body right now, a recognition that this is true, then you've already chosen. Welcome home, observer. Welcome to the timeline where age is optional, where time is attention, where you remember what you've always been. Not a body moving through time, but an eternal witness, choosing which probability to collapse into, moment by moment, breath by breath, observation by observation. The mirror is watching, the field is listening, the numbers will appear. And when they do, you'll know exactly what they mean. They mean, keep going. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, in the space between breaths, in the pause between thoughts, in the eternal now that exists beneath time. There you are. There you've always been. And there you will choose again and again who you become. The observer is awake, and the universe is responding.